living in an incredibly isolated time, and that isolation is making people trust certain thoughts and fake facts that are leading them to fill in that void that they're experiencing.
My name is Russ Milheim. I'm from the Direct. Thank you all for talking to me today about the movie.
Hey,
Thank
Russ,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations, first and foremost. Just how much did each of you dive into the real life context and facts surrounding the event, or did you guys let the script do most of that heavy lifting?
I no, I definitely dove into the real life context. Uh, I think you had to in order to fill in the script because the script is really beautifully minimalistic and it really dives into the mundanity of these characters' lives. That I think that's the major theme that mundanity, boredom, and isolation do not lead to good decisions and good thoughts. But yeah, and in order, I mean, Terry being a real person, I felt like I had to take in as much as I could, not only just about him, but the world in which he was inhabiting and in his relationship to McVeigh. So there was a lot of that, and then using whatever would make the fill out the script. Not saying the script was not it's an incredible script, but the way in which it was written was it's
Mhm.
almost like this chamber piece of these days leading up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a lot of documentaries and I definitely read more of what I didn't know about McVeigh. I remember when it happened. But again, for my character, she was fictional, so I didn't really have to do too much on my part, but I was very interested in the whole story, and I thought that the way Mike wrote the film was incredible, and I think it turned out really well for being such a horrific topic. I think it makes people more aware of what happened if they don't know what happened. It was just a very, it was just done in a really incredible way.
I mean, having seen it on the news back when it happened, and obviously knowing about it because it's just such a horrific and tragic event. To then, yeah, to then really kind of wanting to, you almost want to do it justice because you have to know what the circumstances are. I mean, not only does it kind of help as an actor to just know what it is that you're referencing, what it is that you're talking about, but you really want to bring truth, as much truth as you possibly can to it.
Mhm.
Uh, and and upon researching, I learned that it was just such a bigger thing than what I had seen in the headlines. There was just so many elements to it. There was like a lot of past informing it. There were all of these characters, and yeah, I think that Brett's right. It's this beautiful script that has a mood and a tone, and all of this information is underneath it. But having access to it and being able to kind of do all that work beforehand really makes a difference, I think.
Oftentimes, it feels like people, want to get away from real life when they watch a movie. But with a film like this, and about, extremism, it feels incredibly difficult to do that. And, that's kind of the point of this narrative. So why do you think now is the perfect time for audiences to experience this story?
I think we're living in we're this story is a precursor to what we're living in right now. I mean, most people just gotta go into their DMs and they're gonna see some sort of remnants of this story. Not to compare DMs to the to a bombing, but there is just I think that we're living in an incredibly isolated time, and that isolation is making people trust certain thoughts and fake facts that are leading them to fill in that void that they're experiencing in themselves, and and that leads to really problematic perspectives and behavior on both sides, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly, when watching the film, see this as a period piece, but at the end of the day, it could very well take place right now. That these themes of isolation, anger, extremism, um, and radicalization. I mean, they're all things that we're contending with, and yeah, now is, I think, the perfect time to uh, examine them and to have art bring forth these questions, and allow audience members to really kind of, yeah, find perspective, do research, examine where we are based on the atrocities of the past, and really kind of, you know see how we can do better ultimately.
Actually,
Yeah,
I
humanizing evil saps it of its power.
each of your characters have kind of a vastly different journey in the movie than the others. Can you talk about how you approached crafting your performance with those journeys in mind, and then how your characters' paths kind of inform the bombing tragedy that does eventually unfold?
Uh, yeah, I mean, so much, crafting the character was twofold. It was, I had to physically transform. Become physically not like myself, probably more than I've ever had to in a job. Um, because he's somebody who really doesn't take up any space, and I'm someone who at times takes up too much space. Uh, but and then a lot of that, had to do with like this, like, sort of like Midwestern fade into the background type of physicality and energy. And then there was also just my obsession, Terry's obsession with McVeigh himself, and that there's almost like, it's not romantic, but it approaches that in terms of the need of validation from him. And I spent a lot of time with Alfie, and I think like us getting to know each other so well allowed that vulnerability to be there, to where I could lapse into that perspective on him, and and then just knowing from the history of it, this vast network that they are the grandchildren of, that dates back, or children of, really, because now they would be grandchildren, but that dates back from this like network of white supremacy that really started to form post Vietnam War.
Yeah.
That is very vast. So it was using all of that that led to helping to fill out these scenes.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like very very clear on my end what role Frederick played in terms of uh, aiding Timothy towards this kind of extremism, and the kind of tactics in which to do so, in terms of destabilizing him, mocking him, making him feel welcome. It's these kind of tactics to really kind of make him feel off-centered, and really nudge him in that direction. Um, but but it was, at the end of the day, I mean, it was really gratifying as an artist to be able to kind of go in with Alfie, and just find these scenes in the room, and explore and see what kind of came out of it. Obviously, we had a very brilliant script, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's really what you find, between those two people, between those two characters, and that life that you can try to capture.
Yeah, and I think for me, it was just, um, I was so comfortable with Alfie already because we had known each other for a couple of years before we started this. And I think just really having that chemistry and that connection with Tim, and showing, a different side of him, and being, again, unaware of who he really was. It was just showing a softer side and a more, human side of him, because people see him and know him as this horrible person, which he is. But I think with Cindy and Timothy, you just kind of saw a different side, a softer side, and a longing to be accepted and loved. And you also see a lot of pain in his eyes, even when he's, with Cindy and feeling, like he's loved and all that. You can still see how tortured he is and the pain that he's feeling.